All right, everyone, we're flying solo today. We are going to go ahead and preview week three, go ahead and give some summaries to week two. Let's start off by going over the game of the week, which was Georgia at Penn State. This game started off 28-0, and Georgia had a late comeback. They finished the game 38-24, but a great win for Penn State on the back of 22 carries for 135 yards on the ground, a nice bit of 416 total offense. Penn State kind of put their foot off the gas in the second half, but they closed this one out. They didn't really need to have their foot on the gas in general with that commanding lead. But Georgia made it competitive. Not the ideal start for them. Both teams finished the game with one turnover, but a solid performance. Penn State, has a home easy matchup next week. Georgia is back at home against another user. But this game is what it lived out to be. Next up, we had Nebraska at Charlotte. Charlotte gets this one done in commanding fashion. This is a close game until about the second quarter. Then Nebraska was kind of able to separate the tides up 21-7 at the half. Charlotte just couldn't move the ball on the ground, which led to easy points for Nebraska. Good field position. On the back of 566 yards of total offense for Nebraska. They close this one out at Jerry Richardson Stadium. Tough test for them next week as they go to Georgia, but a good one to make them 2-0. Vandy at Virginia Tech. We said it on our last podcast that this was going to be a tough environment for Vandy to go to. Lane Stadium is a tough place to play, and they just couldn't move the ball. It looks like they only had about 213 yards of offense. Okay day on the ground, but it just was after 7-7 in the first quarter. Virginia Tech just kind of separated themselves from Vandy. Vandy couldn't put the ball in the end zone. 5 for 14 on third down is not great. 0 for 2 on fourth. They just couldn't get the ball in the red zone. Had two interceptions. Not a great look for Vandy, but hopefully they can bounce back next week against a much tougher opponent. But this time they get them at home. Arizona State at Kentucky. This looks like this was a classic. Uh, uh, you know, Basically Arizona State scoring about 21 points in the fourth quarter. I assume that was unanswered, and then Kentucky put a late drive together to get that 7 points to go up 45-42. What a thriller! Jolly and Kentucky start off, I believe, 3-0 as they go into a back-to-back bye, but this was a hell of a win for them. Sam Levitt for Arizona State had a fantastic day with 521 yards, four touchdowns, and Calzada for Kentucky also had 386 yards, five touchdowns. Great day offensively for both teams, and Kentucky gets it done. What a win for them. Next up, we had Wake Forest at Wisconsin. This game finish, Wisconsin gets it done. They win 35-21. A good win. They had 106 yards of rushing, as well as it looks like 365 yards of total offense. Is a good win for them at home. Their quarterback Edwards went 259 yards, three touchdowns, four picks, and a solid day in the backfield for that rest of the Wisconsin team. But this is a good win for Wisconsin. They keep it moving. Let's see. Next up is Arkansas at ECU. It was a nightmare for ECU. Their AD scheduled them a tough schedule to begin with, and they are feeling the effects of it for sure. Going down 0-3 now. This one looked like it was quite the bit of a blowout. So ECU is thankful to get back to American Conference play. I'm not sure if it's next week, but they're gonna go into the American with a lot to prove. That's for sure. Next up was a force sim to Michigan. They knocked down the number one team in the country. They get a favorable matchup next at home. So good week two. A lot of buys. A lot of those teams that were on buys are going to play in week three. We have quite the list here. There's a lot more CPU games that we have. Only a few user games to note of. But week three, we start off with a game of the week. This is Nebraska at Georgia. Georgia's reeling after a loss versus Penn State. They have a lot to prove at home. They're going to face Nebraska, um, but this should be a fun one. I mean, uh, actually, we might have a result for that Michigan game, so we'll stay tuned for that. But still, Nebraska Georgia should be a fun one. This is going to be in Athens. It's going to be a tough environment. This is a top five stadium pulse game. Nebraska's going to have to play it safe, but it should be a very interesting matchup. Next up, we have Ohio at Western Michigan. This is Ohio starting, I believe. Actually, I think Western Michigan is a MAC team still, so Ohio is going to face Western Michigan. It's not a tough environment at home, so Ohio should get this one done if they're used to playing CPUs. So I'm not going to pick that game. I'm going to stay with Ohio. Um, or I'm not going to pick my game, Nebraska at Georgia, but I'm going to pick Ohio. Liberty at Texas. This is one of the few other user matchups that we have. Liberty coming off of a loss against Nebraska. They had a bye last week. This is going to be a tough, tough game for Liberty. Um, Texas has already, matched up against Ohio State. They look to face Liberty, and I think they get it done at home. Ohio State at NC State. Ohio State coming off, I believe, a bye. They're traveling to Raleigh to face the Wolfpack. I think Ohio State will be able to get it done here. It is a tough environment in Raleigh, but I don't think it's enough to match the talent that Ohio State has. I think they get it done. FCS Midwest at Penn State. I think this is a blowout. I think this is a 70-point game. I think Penn State, it's easy. I think it's too easy for Penn State to get this one done here. But I believe after this game, Penn State will go into Big Ten play. So a lot to learn. Good non-conference, and I think they push through. UCLA at Michigan. I think this is another opportunity for Michigan to beat the brakes off an opponent. Um, they take care of business in the non-conference schedule, but this will be a very interesting matchup for Michigan and the Wolverines. I think they get it done here on Michigan. Oklahoma State at Kansas. Kansas, this is a tough start to. Actually, this is a Big 12 matchup. Big 12, Big 10. Oklahoma State, I just don't think has enough to beat Kansas. I think this is one of the closer user versus CPU games of the week, just because I think Carson's terrible at the game. But I think Kansas gets it done, as they assume we'll head into Big Ten play after this one. South Carolina at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, this is a tough, tough matchup going to Lane Stadium. They get to host this one, but this South Carolina CPU team is nasty. This is a team that has Lenore Sellers. It's got some other athletes on the team. If Vandy's not ready for South Carolina, they're not going to get that stadium pulse that they got at Lane Stadium, but it's going to be a tough, tough matchup. Um, but I think I'm going to rock with Vandy here. I'm gonna go with the bounce back win, but if this game gets out of hand, I wouldn't be surprised because Lenore Sellers and that 10 ranked South Carolina, they're a tough, tough out. Bama at Arkansas. Alabama traveling to Arkansas. Uh, Noah did a great job against ECU. That is ECU though. This is a talented Bama team. So those Razorbacks ready to handle the heat from that Alabama's going to give? They don't have a quarterback at Alabama this year. It's Ty Simpson, who is not as talented as a lot of the previous quarterbacks for Alabama, but it's still going to be a tough Alabama team. But I'm going to rock with Arkansas. I think they get the job done here. This is going to be very, 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 very tough, but I think they get it done. But we got a loaded slate. We have a couple buys. Kentucky has a buy. It looks like Charlotte, after an 0-3 start, heads off to a bye. Um, so a couple buys to note of, but we're doing a good job about moving the league forward. This has been it's been a lot of fun so far. These G6 teams. I gave you all a tough schedule to start off. I should have balanced it a little bit more for these G6 teams, but um, I'm confident that whoever kind of comes out of the American as the probably the undefeated team will be able to get that playoff spot. But definitely a tough start for them. As I look at recruiting, it looks like there isn't too much note there. Georgia has got four-star commits, so they're obviously off to a great start. Arkansas's got one 2-star, but those are pretty much the only commits that are happening. I'm sure we'll have one as the advance happens, but not too much to note there. But yeah, continue to play your games, continue to ready up. This has been a lot of fun so far. So best of luck to everyone in week 3, and yeah, let's get it.